This is a very recent addition to the Montblanc family. In this ivory white box is the Montblanc M. The pen comes with a product unspecific Montblanc service guide in 9 languages. It tells you how to maintain your pen and where to get service. The box itself is a rather standard Montblanc box with a velvety inside that holds the pen securely in place. And this is the topic of this video: black precious resin, aka scratch resistant cast acrylic, with 2 Montblanc emblems, one on the barrel and one on the top of the cap, and a platinum clip. Opening the pen shows the ruthenium plated grip and the two-tone gold nib with platinum and ruthenium plating. Closing it up shows off the interesting cap, and I will get back to that. For the first time in over a century, Montblanc consulted an external designer to design a pen, and they chose Marc Newson. Marc Newson is an Australian-born designer now living in London. His most famous design is the Lockheed lounge chair, which he designed and built in 1988 in a limited edition of 15 chairs. One of them sold at April 28th in 2015 at auction at $3.7 million, a sales record for a living designer. Admittedly, it is one of the most iconic examples of furniture design, but still, $3.7 million for a chair that was not designed with the function comfortable in mind, even according to Marc Newson himself. Other examples of his design are the embryo chair, guppy lamps, the felt chair, the mystery clock, and this dish doctor, his extruded marble furniture, the diode lamp, the Atmos 561 and 566 timepieces, the Leica one-off red dot edition sold at auction for charity, and more close to home, for his job at Montblanc, a fountain pen he designed for Hermès. Produced by Pilot in Japan, it has a turning mechanism, so it's sort of a crossbreed between a Lamy Dialogue 3 that has the same turn to start action, and well, maybe a Pilot vanishing point. It does have a very comfortable grip, much like the triangular Omos 360, and Hermès, being Hermès, sells the pen at $1,760 a piece. Well, enough said about its designer. Let's get back to the pen, the Montblanc M. It is part of the M series, which bring a rollerball, a ballpoint pen, a screenwriter, a new art fine liner, and this fountain pen. Let's start with the magnetic cap. And in slow motion, the cap aligns itself with the barrel because it has a magnet in the cap and also a magnet in the grip. Montblanc has a warning in the packaging about the risks of carrying a magnet, but it's not a very strong magnet and it gets the job done. The small magnet in the cap also protects the nib from drying up, as it locks into place. The gap meets the grip, and if it doesn't close all the way automatically, it can be shut down with a very satisfying click. The cap can freely turn, but the north and south poles from the magnets in both grip and cap always align the clip. Cap cannot be posted, but can stand on its end. There's no finial. The clip very cleverly disappears into nothingness. On the outside of the clip there is a Montblanc serial number, but the inside of this clip does not have a perfectly smooth finish. It is a crude cut on the inner part of this clip. I don't think this clip should have passed quality control. On the underside of the clip there is a laser engraving of the word metal. It is tiny and needs a decent amount of light to see. The obligatory "Made in Germany" is engraved on the grip, well, on the part that is usually inside the barrel. The 14-karat gold nib and feed without combed serrations resembles the business end of the Star Walker. Even the grip reminds a bit about that pen, albeit this one has a ribbed texture to it. The text just above the barrel is 5 times the word Montblanc with the same textured engraving as we see in the Meisterstück series. I think the camera exaggerates the two-toneness of this nib a bit. As a hats off to Marc Newson, pens produced in 2015 will carry his initial on the nib. I reckon that we will see the more familiar Montblanc logo with the M inside in pens produced after this launch year. Let's move on to the barrel. Montblanc says about this flat bit on the barrel, it is a, and I quote here, "It is a carefully crafted plateau in the precious resin by milling the material with a diamond tool. The iconic emblem is put into place using ultrasonic welding for a perfectly flat and smooth surface." Unquote. Now personally, I don't think using a diamond tool adds value to the pen if used instead of a lathe chisel made out of tungsten carbide. And ultrasonic welding aside, the beveled flat plateau is an interesting feature that is aesthetically pleasing to the eye. The Montblanc M is advertised as a cartridge-only pen. Even Montblanc's own converter does not fit into the grip, but the cross converter 8751 does fit. And although this converter has a slightly wider opening than a cartridge, it seems to get a good grip inside the pen. I must admit, I am using this converter for just a couple of weeks now, and I sometimes see some ink at the neck, but the pen did not leak on me with this converter. When you fill the pen using the converter, rushing things does not work. Maybe it has to do with a slightly larger opening in the converter, or maybe the breather hole was just not designed for rush work. If you are slowly and very carefully, deliberately drawing the ink, then the result is a little bit better. My preferred method, however, is sticking the converter straight into the inkwell and using a paper cloth to clean it off afterwards and inserting it into the grip. It saves you from cleaning the grip and keeps your ink cleaner, since the nib sheds more crud into your inkwell than an empty converter might do. In any case, I like being able to use a converter on this pen, so I have a wider choice of inks to use and don't add to landfills with spent cartridges. I like this fine nib. It's smooth for a fine nib and does lay down a decent line. It is even able to show some ink shading. Overall, an excellent writer with a snap cap system that makes it easy to put down short, intermittent notes in meetings. The grip is comfortable to hold, but if your thumb is backed up, the steep step to the barrel might annoy you. So, is this an iconic pen? In Marc Newson's own words, good design has always been primarily about designing objects that can withstand the test of time. Now, of course, too little time has passed to validate if this pen can withstand that test. It is obviously too soon to tell. but it sure is a more modern pen than Montblanc has ever produced. It's a very decent writer and a very recognizable and fresh look, so it sure has the potential to become an icon. Just give it a couple of decades. Let's conclude this review of the Montblanc M with a writing sample.